Hey there. Welcome back to Learning Made Fun, your ultimate destination for IT training content. Today, get ready to dive into setting a new container in Proxmox 8.0. So grab your snacks, hit that subscribe button, and let's jump right in. Here we are in our continuation of setting up a new container in Proxmox. In our last video, we created a container called Ubuntu 23. Now we're going to start setting it up so that we can use this new container. We logged in as root, but it's never a good idea to stay as root. So we're going to create two users right now to get started. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to say, add user, and the first one is Bob, and then we're going to enter the password for Bob, and we'll just say Bob, and then test, and then we'll just leave everything else alone for now. If this was a real environment, you want to be sure to enter all of those pieces of information. And so now let's actually test this. We're going to exit out of the root user, and let's log in as Bob, enter his password, and there we are. We are now logged in as Bob at Ubuntu 23. So let's exit and make our second user. We're going to go back in as the root user. And now we're going to add another user. Let's see, who do we want to add today? We're going to add, add user Sophia. And we're going to add a password for Sophia. And now we've added Sophia and Bob. And ideally, we're not going to need the root. But in order for us to make sure that we don't need the root user, we're going to elevate Bob so that he's going to have super user privileges, and Sophia will just be a regular user. So in order to do that, we're going to say user mod to modify, and we're going to modify for sudo. And we said Bob is the one that we're going to elevate his privileges. So we've now taken the root, created two new users, Bob and Sophia, and Bob has elevated privileges. So let's log in as Bob. There we are. And now we're going to go into our print working directory. If we do our print working directory, pwd, I can see that I've created a new folder in my home folder for Bob, for that particular user. And then for Bob, we're going to make a new directory for his, well, Bob's in accounting, so we're going to call this payroll. So let's just say payroll. And if I do a list, I can see that now Bob has a payroll folder. And we want to make sure that this is only for Bob and not visible by Sophia. So let's do this. Let's exit out and let's log in as Sophia. Enter Sophia's password. And on her machine, if we were to do logged in as her user, I see that she has her own folder inside of home, but she does not have access to that payroll folder, not in her user. So you could say, well, wait a minute, what about if we went up to the home folder? So let's do that. Let's go into our home folder. And I can't see Bob in here, but I am, let's see if I can log into it. And I see that my permissions are denied. So Sophia cannot go into Bob's home folder. So she can't see what's inside of it, where we had that payroll folder. So let's exit out. Actually, let's go in a little bit further. So we're inside of the print working directory for Sophia. And let's create a folder in here. Actually, let's do this. Let's go all the way up. And let's say home, Sophia. And we're going to make a directory in here. Sophia is actually in production. So we're going to call her folder production. And this is inside of the Sophia home folder. All right, so now let's exit out and go to Bob. And if we do a print working directory, let's move up. Oops. Let's go into the home folder. And we're going to go into Sophia from here. And Bob does not have permissions to go into Sophia's folder. But if I do sudo change directory, enter his password, sudo, the S option may be used to run privileged shell. All right, so he doesn't have access to this either. So let's back up and let's actually just log into the home folder for Bob. And we have his payroll folder, and let's change the directory to payroll. And inside of payroll, there's nothing. We're going to make a subfolder inside of payroll. So we're going to call this utilities. So we're going to make a directory and call it utilities. And now let's back up. And we're inside of payroll. If I do a list, I'm inside of payroll. But now, if I want to go into the utilities folder, I can do utilities. And that doesn't work, but I got to do payroll, actually, because utilities. Notice how I had to put the slash after payroll to go into the subfolder, but not payroll because I was already at that level. In here, I'm going to create a file. And let's call this light bill. And I'm also going to do something called, actually, we can copy this file since it's empty right now. Light bill, actually, let's say water bill. And if I do a list, I didn't do it correctly. So I do light bill, and I'm going to copy that, and then I have to name the output, which is going to be water bill. And now if I do a list, I can see my two bills. So we're now going to start using a editor. You got a couple to choose from. My personal favorite is Nano. So I'm going to use this text editor and edit the light bill. And I'm going to say pay the light bill today. And then I'm going to say Control X, Control Y, and enter. And if I do a list, I still see my two files, and you're like, well, what happened? They look the same. So I'm going to say cat so I can actually read what's inside the light bill file. And if I do CAT, I can see the text inside of the light bill. So what if I do the same thing with the water bill? Oh, there's nothing there. But if I go into Nano again, and for the water bill, I'm going to say be sure to pay the water. Oops. Today. And let's close and save that. And I do a cat again for light bill. It says pay the light bill today. And if I do the same thing for water bill, I got to spell correctly in order for this to work. Waterbill.txt, it says be sure to pay the water bill today. So these are my two files. Now, if I do an ls-l, I can see that my read-write privileges on the left-hand side, I can see the group that this user belongs to and the name of the files. If I wanted to elevate the privileges to that directory, to that file, I'm so sorry, I could do that by saying chmod, let's just give, complete rights. So I'm going to say chmod 777, and I'm going to do it to the light bill. And now I do an ls. Notice the color difference from one file to the other. And if I was to do a list with the L switch, immediately to the very left, I can see that the privileges have been elevated as well as having that color right there. So here's something neat. The screen is getting kind of full, so I can say clear, and I can start all over. Now I have a nice clean screen. I was working with my two files. I changed the privileges to one of them. Now what I want to do is I actually want to remove a file. I don't need this anymore. So I'm going to say rm lightbill.txt. Did I do that right? Light bill. So I'm going to say lightbill.txt. Okay. I was just spelling it wrong. So here we are. Now we just have the water bill. So what if I don't want to delete the file from here? I could delete the folder and the contents of the file. So let's move up a level. And I'm inside of payroll that's inside of Bob that's inside of home. So payroll currently has that waterbill.txt in there. And I want to go ahead and remove that directory. So I'm going to say rm to remove. Now I want the directory and everything inside of it. So I have to use the -r or the -r switch and then the name of the directory, which is payroll. Oh, what did I say that? Utilities. Utilities. And now ideally that removed the folder and the file that was in that. And if I do a print working directory again, I still see payroll, but if I do a list, there's no utilities folder. We're going to do one more thing. Okay, I'm inside of payroll. And now I want to go up to, let's go back inside of Bob. And I have that payroll folder. I want to remove that payroll folder now. There's nothing in it, but let's go inside of it and put a file. There's nothing in there. We're going to say touch file, say file 4. And let's get up. And now I have payroll. I want to get rid of payroll. So I'm going to say remove once again. Remember recursive, and the name of that directory. And now payroll's gone, along with the files that were inside of it. So we've gone over quite a bit of stuff. If you want to know exactly what we've covered, we can do a history. And there's our commands. The ls command, the remove with the R switch to make sure that it was recursive. We changed directories, list, and so that's going to conclude this video. We're going to continue setting up this new container on our next video. I hope you enjoyed it, and don't forget to like and subscribe.